بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Last time we stopped at the paragraph related to distortion of jihad. Now, after all what we had talked about and how important jihad is to the Muslim ummah and to the spread of Islam, we find nowadays that the picture of jihad has been distorted, has been manipulated with. And the reason for that usually is attributed to two types of people. The first type are those who are enemies of Islam. They hate Islam. They want to do anything to tarnish the reputation of Islam. And they would do their level best to blame anything negative on Islam. So even if there is a volcano, an eruption of volcano, or an earthquake, they would soon point to Islamic fundamentalists and that they were the cause root of it. And such people usually control the media. And nowadays, in our current times, the media is one of the most powerful weapons people can utilize for their gains, depending on their agenda. 20, 30, 40 years ago, whenever there was a coup and a government was toppled and overthrown, the first thing the rebels do is to take control of the radio and the television. And this is what so many people do to control the masses through the media. And when you have it in the wrong hands, you would have fake news, as he says. And this is what is exactly happening when it comes to the Western media, or media that is controlled by tyrannical governments. They make those who make jihad to free their country as rebels, as terrorists. They portray them as extremists. And we know that it depends where you look at it from. So someone's terrorist is someone else's freedom fighter. When Gandhi or Nelson Mandela were in their countries defending their people, the governments, the occupiers, the enemies of the country, consider them to be terrorists. But the people, their people, consider them to be freedom fighters. So it all depends how you look at it and the way you portray things to the people. Having said that, I do not at all deny the fact that there are terrorists. And these are the second type that is distorting the image of jihad. These are people who do not follow Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Shaitan works in clear ways. He looks at you Either you are religiously committed or you are negligent and careless. Those who are religiously committed, he increases the doses of extremism and he infests their minds with corrupt ideology, with things that are not related to Islam, that would inevitably and eventually lead them to takfir. And this is where Khawarij came. So at the moment, you may have a group of Muslims who are truly fighting for the cause of Islam. But after a while, due to the lack of knowledge, due to the fact that they do not regard scholars of Islam as scholars, rather they would choose few people here or there and take them as scholars. And when you tell them, name your scholars to me, they would say Abu Qudama, Abu Lubaba, Abu Hamza al-Misri, Abu Ishaq al-Baghdadi, Abu this, Abu that. Okay, what are their names? They said, we don't know. Where are they residing? We said, we don't know. What do you know about their background or their academics? They said, we don't know. But they write sound articles, subhanallah. And they believe what these anonymous people write to them, whom I could care less if they were CIA or KGB, because this is inevitably playing into their own hands. So they write these articles, they send it to them, they act upon it, and they start to terrorize the people. And when terrorizing the people, the reputation of Islam is tarnished. And there is a justification to invade Muslim countries and to kill civilians and to raid masjids and to destroy home after home, looking for mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. So these terrorists have played into the hands of the enemies of Islam and themselves became enemies of Islam. The Prophet ﷺ described them as the hounds of hell. And he said that if I were to meet them, I would have killed them wherever they are, because they are worse than the enemies of Islam. At least an enemy of Islam fights you face to face. He has a different ideology, different religion. He's clearly holding the flag of being your enemy. While Khawarij, they look like us, they speak like us. The Prophet told us that if one would compare his prayer to theirs, you would look down at your own prayer and say that I haven't done anything. Yet the Prophet said that they go through religion and penetrate religion and leave religion as an arrow when it goes through a prey and a game. So these two categories, they cause the worst harm to the Muslims and to the non-Muslims alike. Now, with the grace of Allah, this coronavirus, the COVID-19, has, with the grace of Allah, managed to change the perception of non-Muslims all over the world. People are discovering the beauty of Islam. People are discovering how peaceful Islam is and how misinformed they were by the media. People have discovered how evil ISIS is, the non-Islamic state of Iraq and Syria, and that they are blatant terrorists, killing civilians discriminately, never differentiating between a child, a woman, a man, or an elderly. They could care less. Killing is their game. Bloodshed is what they're after. And Allah would hold them accountable on the day of judgment for what they had done and caused. So, we as intellectual, educated people must not allow their games to fool others, and we have to represent Islam as it is without sugarcoating it. Some people go to extreme when they say we have to fight every non-Muslim and we have to capture them and kill them and take their wealth and rape their women. A'udhu billah. What religion is this? But on the other defense, the other side of the coin, you have people saying that there is no fighting in Islam. There is nothing as jihad. We have to accept the others and we have to bow down to them. And this is not religion of Islam. This is not related to true Islam. We have to balance and do exactly as the Prophet had done, alayhi salatu wassalam. And this is how we manage to portray Islam to the rest of the world. The real Islam. The Islam of peace without weakness. The Islam of strength without violence. The Islam of pride and honor without arrogance. So, fighting is a necessity. Not for the sake of bloodshed. No one loves fighting. But it is part of the religion that has to be fulfilled. And the reason of fighting, as we've mentioned before, is to spread the religion of Allah. So you mean that we have to compel people and force them? No. We don't force people to accept Islam. And if someone accepted Islam at gunpoint, his Islam is invalid, and those who forced him are sinful. We do not force people to come to Islam, but we force people to pave the way for Islam to spread. You don't want to become a Muslim? Remain as you are. You have no problem. But you can't stand against Islam and prevent it from spreading. And this is why when the Prophet ﷺ used to send an army, he would tell the leader to give 3 choices before starting fighting, before starting to fight. So the leader goes to their leader. This is Islam. Allah revealed the Quran, we have the Messenger, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we have this, we have that. Shows him the beauty of Islam. Are you interested? Because if you are, and you become Muslim, we move on and leave you. This becomes a Muslim country. He says, no, we don't want your Islam. He says, okay, up to you. Totally up to you. Now, if you don't want Islam, you're compelled to pay us jizya. And by the way, this jizya is a payment that you pay once a year only on behalf of men who are qualified to work and to fight. You don't pay jizya on behalf of women, children, elderly, monks, priests, etc. The slaves, servants, no. Only men. And with this jizya, money, with this taxation, we will give you protection. Any army invades you, we will protect you. You guys don't have to fight. So the guy says, no, we're not interested. We can defend ourselves. In this case, you leave us no option but to fight you and to conquer your land. So these are 3 fair conditions. And it's stated in the Quran and in the Sunnah. Now, if they wanted peace, peace cannot come except through power. And in Islam, you have to be powerful. You have to be strong. But again, without any arrogance, without any violence, without any unfairness. And when fighting takes place, there are rules of engagement that Muslims are obliged to abide by. No one is killed on the battlefield except those who are actively fighting. Nowadays, in current warfares, they have expanded the term of collateral damage. So we see women being bombed, children, elderly, without any fault of their side. And they said, well, we have to do this because this is collateral damage. And this is not true. In Islam, it is forbidden to kill a woman, a child, ill people, elderly, monks, priests, servants. It is prohibited to kill animals, except if you are consuming them, or to destroy farmland, or to spoil water resources. It is prohibited to finish a wounded soldier, though he's from the enemy. So Islam looks at war as a surgical operation that should be confined to the diseased part of the body, not to blow up the whole country, not to kill entire villages, rather to be precise in what you're doing. And whenever is the benefit of the doubt, you have to stay away as much as you can. Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, sent Usama ibn Zayd ibn Haritha, may Allah be pleased with him, man, with his father, on an army to fight the Byzantines, who were like 300,000 soldiers. So the Muslims, who were about 5,000, 10,000 against this much. What were Abu Bakr commands, may Allah be pleased with him, to Usama? He said, do not commit any treachery, plundering, or disfigurement. So no mutilations with enemy bodies. Do not kill a child, an elderly, or a woman. Do not cut or burn any date trees or fruit trees. Do not slaughter any sheep, cow, or camel except for food. You shall encounter people who confine themselves in their hermitages, so leave them alone. Hermitages, yani synagogues, places of worship, etc. This is the same advice that the Prophet used to give, alayhi salatu wasalam, to all leaders of his whenever they went to invade or to fight a tribe or a country. And when the Prophet himself, alayhi salatu wasalam, once in a battle saw a woman killed, he was angered by this and said, Subhanallah, such a woman did not deserve to fight, let alone to be killed. So in Islam, we're only allowed to kill those who fight us. So if a monk carries a rifle, he's to be fought like anyone else. If a woman carries a rifle, she would be fought like anyone else. What about prisoners of war, POWs? What should we do with them? Well, in Islam, in the first major battle ever between Muslim forces and the disbelievers, that was the Battle of Badr. and it took place in the second year of Hijrah. And Allah Azza wa Jal granted the Muslims prisoners of war. Some say 70, some say less or more. And these were from the dignitaries of Quraysh. So the Prophet ﷺ gave each Muslim man one of the prisoners. And not only that, he instructed them, he ordered them to take care of their prisoners. So they took good care of their prisoners, and they gave them preference over their own families in regards of food and drink. And someone would say, Akhi, this is too much, come on, I don't believe this, with all due respect. An enemy that you were just fighting a few hours ago, he was trying to kill you and you were trying to kill him. And his companions and comrades killed so many of your relatives and friends and associates. You mean to tell me that you're going to take him as a prisoner of war and feed him and give him drink more than you give to your family? I don't believe this. Well, akhi, this is your problem, if you want to believe or not. This is what Allah mentioned in the Quran, and He described these believers when Allah said, they give food, though they need it themselves, to the needy, the orphan, and the captive, the prisoners of war. This is why so many people who were captive during war enter in Islam. Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, said that the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, عَجِبْتُ لِأَقْوَامٍ يُجَرُّونَ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ بِالسَّلَاسِلِ. I am amazed by people on the Day of Judgment are being dragged by their shackles and chains to paradise. This is symbolic to them being captive and prisoners in shackles and chains, but then discovering the beauty of Islam, accepting Islam willingly, and these shackles and chains would lead them to paradise, because otherwise they would have remained in the state of kufr and would have been in hell for eternity. And ask anyone who's logical, but he has to believe in Islam and in the Day of Judgment. You, as a disbeliever, if I were to tell you, you have a choice not to fight you, but you will end up in hell for eternity, or I would fight you and you may fall as a prisoner of war, but you will accept Islam and inevitably you will go to paradise for eternity. What will you choose? Of course, if he believed in Islam, he would choose the latter. But the vast majority of non-Muslims don't believe in that. And this is why they reject it. So now we as doctors, we as people who know the truth, would we fight them or leave them to their whims and desires? If someone is in front of me and he's about to drink something from a glass, which I am certain that someone had put a potion or someone had put poison in it, I saw that. So I tell that individual, don't drink. There's poison in it. And the man says, it's none of your business. I like what I'm doing, and I'm gonna drink it. What is my responsibility? Now I know for certain that he is going to die. Will I say, it's none of my business, let him die? Or would I fight him and force him not to drink? It's the same thing when it comes to Islam. We know for certain that this is the religion of Allah. We know for certain that if you don't accept Islam, you'll end up in hell for eternity. It's not a match that you light and put your finger on it and count from 1 to 10. You can't bear that. 1 to 5, you cannot bear that. 1 to 3, maybe, maybe not, but you'll have a very bad burn. It's hellfire. It's worse than furnaces. and it's there for eternity. And we don't have time to describe how horrible hell is. So we as Muslims see it as an obligation for us to have all the people in the world to come and embrace Islam. When you embrace Islam, do I get any cash revenues? Nope. Do I get to have control over you and tell you, Simon says, do this or do that? No. So what benefit would I get when you accept Islam? The only benefit is reward with Allah the Almighty. Secondly, that I have made my due diligence and I would feel comfortable when you escape hell and go to paradise. So this makes me feel good. That's it. So don't think that we are getting any gain out of people accepting Islam. We have a chapter that deals with war gains, but I think that we're almost passing halftime. So maybe we'll go to the questions and answers and see what do we have there. So the first question is from Ibra Javid. Ibra Javid says, I wanted to know if permanent family planning is allowed, provided I'm unable to continue with any pregnancies because I'm 38 years old. I have a slip disc problem and I already have 3 kids. I know my physical strength can't bear more kids. My husband is also okay with this decision. Please let me know. Permanent family planning means that you won't be able to get pregnant again. And this is problematic because in Islam, the Prophet ﷺ ordered us to reproduce, to have a lot of children. And he told us that I will boast the different nations on the Day of Judgment with the number of followers. However, scholars say that temporary family planning is permissible, and that is leaving a gap of 2 to 3 years between pregnancies. This is okay. And they said that permanent family planning is not permissible unless there is a legitimate reason. So if you have a slip disc and the doctors say that this is adding to the pain and dangers of your back pains when you get pregnant, and they say that it might hinder your health, and you're unable to make a surgery, whether because you're too scared or because it's too dangerous or because you don't have the means to undergo a surgery. So in this case, if it is critical and you are unable to cope with another pregnancy, and the doctors say that this is a chronic illness that will continue, that will not be able to recover from it anytime soon, in this case, I believe that there is no problem, inshallah, in having such a surgery. Shireen says, is it necessary for a Muslim woman to be a part of a group of people who take part in Islamic da'wah or do tabligh? In short, is every Muslim obliged or obligated to participate in the work of da'wah? If one does not involve himself in the work of da'wah, what will be the consequences according to Islamic Sharia? When you believe in something, you usually act upon it. And it is wrong to limit da'wah to giving talks and seminars. Not everyone is qualified or capable to give talks like us. Not because we are superstars or superheroes. Rather, we were fortunate from Allah Azza wa Jal to have this platform and for the people to trust us. But not everyone can just all of a sudden shoot for that. So da'wah is not limited in speeches, leading the prayer, giving lectures. It can be through social media. I know a lot of my team, may Allah bless them all, that are involved a lot in da'wah. So a sister that runs my Facebook account, the Q&A, do you think that she's less in reward than me who's giving the fatwas? No. She's exactly the same. Whatever I say, she gets the reward. A sister who channels my videos and lectures and transcribes it into words for those who are deaf and cannot hear. So they read the lecture and they benefit from it. She's getting the same reward. A brother who drives me from the airport or from the hotel to the conference area, anticipating the reward that I'm taking the sheikh to deliver a lecture, he's rewarded exactly as I am. So da'wah is not limited. You can make da'wah through the internet, social medias, Facebook. You can gather women, if you are a sister, in your community and give them 2-3 times a week a class, tafsir, in Riyadh al-Salihin, in anything. You can give da'wah through the way you walk and talk. My presence in a room is a da'wah by itself. Your hijab is a da'wah by itself. Now, joining the Tablighi Jama'ah is not something that we advise of. I have many friends who are from this Jama'ah. They are among the kindest, the most generous, the most helpful people you'll ever find. They never curse, they're sweethearts, seriously. But their practice of the deen is not correct. And they have a lot of innovations. So is it mandatory for a woman or a man to join? The answer is no. It's not only not mandatory, it is prohibited to join them, because they are not based on knowledge. All what they focus on is their 6 usool, and they're growing the beard, shortening the thobe, using the miswak, praying in the masjid. That's it. If you talk to them about anything of knowledge, they say these are issues of dispute, and dispute divides the ummah, and they would not allow this to take place. So generally speaking, people must not join this jama'ah because they are not following the right way of the hadith or of the sunnah or the way of the Prophet ﷺ, but they are kind. Don't be hostile to them. They're kind, they're loving, they're generous. Da'wah is so wide, the sky is the limit. You can do so many things in terms of da'wah that complies with the Quran and with the Sunnah. Nibir bin Abdul Aziz says, is there qital for women? The answer is no. The women came to the Prophet ﷺ and said to him, O Prophet of Allah, allow us, permit us to come and fight with you in jihad. So the Prophet said ﷺ, nay, you have the best type of jihad for you women, and that is Hajj and Umrah. So this is the type of jihad that is permissible for women to participate in. Some scholars say the only exception is when perpetrators, when enemy forces come and attack your own city. So if a woman is in her house, it becomes obligatory upon her to fight back rather than allowing them to take her as a prisoner. So she could use anything in her hands. If she has guns and gun power, so be it. If not, even boiling some cooking oil might help, because it's really bad when you pour it on someone's head. And you can do so many things, but you have to fight and defend yourself. Afrina says, is this okay to pray 4 rak'ah of Taraweeh prayer if I feel tired? First of all, night prayer, Taraweeh prayer, Tahajjud prayer, Witr prayer are all voluntary, highly recommended to be performed, but not mandatory. So if you feel tired, and instead of praying 11 rak'ah every night, you just want to pray 4 rak'ahs and 1 witr, no problem. If you just want to pray 1 rak'ah witr, no problem. If you don't pray at all, again, no problem. This is a window of opportunity for you to gain hasanat and reward. If you are tired sincerely and you do this every single night that you pray, but this night I'm tired, Allah will reward you for that without any doubt, inshallah. Fida says, what is musta'mal water and why does it matter? How to wash hair next to the ear and above that, as it is not considered beard in wudu? Wallahi Fida, I don't know what the second part is, but let me try later on. What is musta'mal water? Musta'mal water is used water. What is the significance of it? There's no significance. Some schools of thought, when they came in the beginning to classify the types of water, they said there is tuhur water and there is najis water. Tuhur water is the water that uplifts a ritual impurity with wudu or ghusl, and it removes a physical impurity. Najis water we know. So what is in between? They said what's in between is called tahir water. And define tahir water. This is tuhur and this is tahir. They said tahir water is water that is pure by itself, but it does not uplift a ritual impurity. Why? Because it was used. So when I perform wudu, the water that falls from washing my organs, this water is pure. If I put it on my clothes are not considered or labeled as najis. But I cannot use that used water to perform another wudu. When you look into the Quran to the Sunnah, you don't find anything referring to that. But these are the schools of thought and how they classified water. So this, unfortunately, came to some people overthinking. People come to me and say, Sheikh, I washed my face, and without noticing, some of the water fell into the bucket which I was taking water from. So can I use that water or shall I dispose of it? Of course, use it. The scholars give examples for tahir water. So they say if the water nature changes with a purity, with something that is pure, it is tahir. You cannot use it for wudu. Such as, if they say if you put into it a bag of tea, tea is tahir. So now when you stir it up a bit, take the bag, what do you have? They said this water is tahir. If it falls on my clothes, I can still pray, but I cannot perform wudu with it. We say this is true. You cannot perform wudu with it, not because it is tahir water, rather because it is not water anymore. This is called tea. So in the Quran and in the Sunnah, water is either tahir, tahur, or najis. Tahir and tahur being the same. If the characteristics were changed with something that is pure, then it changes to another substance other than water, which is not cold water anymore. So I hope this answers your question. As for the second part, I don't know what do you mean. If you mean this area of hair for a man, this is washing your face, not while wiping over your head. So I don't know if this is what you mean or not. Cassandra says, I have anxiety and depression. It is very difficult for me to pray and fast. Is it okay if I don't pray and fast? Will Allah forgive me? Well, Cassandra, you are one of two people. Either you are mentally sane and sound, so you have your own choices. You know what you're doing and you know the consequences of them. You don't rob, you don't kill people, you don't harm them because you know what will happen to you. You don't want to go to jail. You never cross a red light signal because you know that you're going to pay a lot of money in fines. So you are a sane person. You have anxieties. You have mild or severe depression, but you're still sane. If you don't pray, you're considered to be a kafir and you'll go to hell forever. Those who do not pray at all are not labeled and considered as Muslims. So it's very difficult. You have to be careful. But if you are classified by psychiatrists to be insane, and you have reports to prove that you are not accountable for your actions or your decisions and choices, in this case, it is up to Allah Azza wa Jal to judge you. Because this is only it's only in Allah's hands to determine. From your email, from your question, you sound to me like a normal person, writing perfectly good English, not confused, not having any problems, but it seems to me that you have whispers of shaitan overwhelming you and trying to convince you not to pray and not to fast so that you would improve, not knowing, that is you, that whenever you do not pray or fast, you will deteriorate faster and faster, and this would cause you more harm. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect you. Fatima says, in Ramadan, we eat after Maghrib, both after breaking the fast and after the Maghrib prayer. So how and when to say those long adhkar of the evening? Well, you have to make a choice. MashaAllah, you eat before Maghrib Salah, and you eat after Maghrib Salah, and you continue until Taraweeh eating. What kind of diet is this? What kind of fasting? This is bad for you. The best thing is just to have few dates and a bowl of soup, maybe 1 or 2 sambusak, and that's it until 11 o'clock when you have your final meal. Not pre-dawn meal, but the final main meal. And just before Fajr, you may take some yogurt, some milk, maybe a couple of dates and water, and that's it. But to fill it up after Maghrib, and then after praying Maghrib, you fill it up again, and then you ask about the adhkar, you have to make a choice. You don't have to sit where you are to make your adhkar. You can eat and say your adhkar, but this is something you have to balance yourself. You don't expect Sheikh to come and say, no, you should not eat more than 3 dates, drink a glass of water, and make your adhkar for half an hour. No one would say that to you. We do not tell you what to do and what not to do. We tell you about the sunnah. You have to find out a way out that would be accepted for you, and at the same time without compromising saying these adhkars. Ramla says, can we kill the insects, ants, with our feet, squashing them, she means? It's very painful when they bite accidentally. No problem. Anything that is harmful, you can kill it, whether by squashing it with your feet, by spraying it with pesticides, by washing it off, no problem with that. Salama says, what are the conditions of wudu and how to do wudu? Please tell me the right way, Sheikh. Well, this would take a long time and this is a Q&A, you would be kindly requested to revise our series, maybe number 4 or number 5, where we talked about how to perform wudu. Farzana says, what is more rewarding for a woman after Fajr? She prays 2 rak'ah sometimes after sunrise at home, or she prays duha before dhuhr time. If you want my advice, do both. Ramadan is a season for good deeds. So if you do that, you will be highly rewarded for that. Lyric says, what is the ruling of the one who fasts but does not pray at all? Is his fast valid? This is an issue that is frequently asked every single Ramadan. First of all, is it my job to judge people? I see many people in my family and elsewhere, they go to someone who does not pray, but is so eager to fast. When Ramadan starts, they say, don't fast. Why? You're a kafir. You don't pray. So the guy says, okay, if I'm a kafir, I'm not gonna fast. Why would I fast? Subhanallah. Akhi, what harm would he bring you if he fasts? Nothing. But it is our love to judge people, to control others. Now, I've often said this, and I'll repeat it again. The ruling of a person who does not pray is theoretical and practical. The theoretical part is the hadith which states, anyone who does not pray is a kafir. The pledge between us and them is abandoning salat. Whoever abandons salat is a kafir. Between man and disbelief or shirk is abandoning salat. All these hadiths are authentic in Sahih and elsewhere. So there's no doubt in their authenticity. These are theoretical. It is like when the Prophet said, ﷺ, may Allah curse the one who deals in riba and who takes riba. So this is theoretical. I can't go to a person in an interest-based bank, a teller, or the clerk who is opening accounts and fixed deposits and setting the percentage of riba. I cannot go to him and say, may Allah curse you. The Prophet has cursed you. You are cursed. Because this is practical. So the theoretical part is, anyone who does not pray is a kafir. The practical part is to identify whether this particular individual, named Ahmed, for example, who does not pray, whether this particular individual named Ahmed, is he a kafir or not? This is the practical aspect of it. So what's the difference? The Prophet said, who doesn't pray is a kafir. Ahmed doesn't pray, then he's a kafir. No. Practically, we have to ensure that the conditions are fulfilled, that he knows the ruling, that he's choosing that ruling, that he does not have any misinterpretation, because he might say, yes, I know the hadith, and I know also that the Prophet said, whoever says La ilaha illallah will never enter hell. So I'm saying La ilaha illallah. So there's a misinterpretation here. And we have to ensure that there are no obstacles, that he's not ignorant, that he's not forced, that he's not misinterpreting, etc. And this practical side cannot be done except by scholars, the Muslim ruler, the Muslim judge, to ensure that this individual has fulfilled all the conditions and is a full-fledged kafir. Going back to your question, Lyric, a person who does not pray and fast, is his fast valid? This is in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jalla. We tried to give him dawah, call him to pray, we would not repel him from fasting or say, you don't pray, your fast is invalid. No, let him. Fasting will only draw him closer to Allah, and somehow, some way down the line, he will inshallah resume praying. Jamil says, is Taraweeh counted as tahajjud? Can I pray it before suhoor? Taraweeh is a new name given to the prayer, not from the Sunnah, but rather from what the Sahaba and the Tabi'een called it. And Taraweeh, by definition, is night prayer offered in congregation in the masjid. So if a woman is praying home during the month of Ramadan, this is not called Taraweeh. It's called night prayer. If a man is praying other than Ramadan in his home, this is not called Taraweeh. What about if he prays home like we do now? The masjids are on lockdown, so we pray at home. Do we call this Taraweeh? No, we call it night prayer. And this is why delaying it during the month of Ramadan, so that you pray it at the time of tahajjud, the last third of the night, this is best. This is what Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, said when he saw the people praying Taraweeh in the masjid. He said, the prayer that they sleep over is better for them than this. Meaning the prayer that they sleep because it is late at night, tahajjud time, this is better than the one they're praying in congregation. So yes, Jamil, it is best for you to delay your prayer and pray it at the time of tahajjud. Faiza says, we decided to stone before Zawal, that is the third day, due to continuous announcements by the authorities in Mina to avoid the Rami after the 12 o'clock noon. As we had heard about the new fatwa that permits stoning before Zawal, we didn't ask any in particular to any scholar at that time. So now, is this condition, in this condition, do we need to offer expiation? If you received news from the Grand Mufti of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that it is permissible for you to stone before noon, and you acted upon it because it was the official Mufti and the Grand Mufti, the highest authority in religious affairs in the kingdom, and you acted upon that, I believe that there is no expiation on you and the sin is on him. But for people of knowledge who know what is right and what is wrong, it is not permissible for them to follow his command, because they know that the sunnah of the Prophet and what the Prophet did himself directs them to say that it is mandatory to throw only after noon. So you have to pick and choose what is right and what is wrong in your case, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have until we meet again Thursday, inshallah, same time. I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.